This is not just a spy story. This is the story of a man who deceived an entire empire, shattered the intelligence community of the West, and played a double game for decades, without ever getting caught. Until it was too late. His name? Harold Adrian Russell Philby, but the world would come to know him simply as Kim. A privileged beginning born on January 1, 1912, in the dusty colonial heat of Ambala, British India, Kim Philby was not the kind of man you'd ever suspect. He was the son of Saint John Philby, a famed explorer, Arabist, and advisor to Ibn Saud, a man deeply embedded in the British elite, yet with views that leaned curiously toward the unconventional. From his earliest days, Kim was surrounded by power, privilege, and paradox. He attended Westminster School in London and later enrolled at the prestigious Trinity College, Cambridge. And it was at Cambridge in the early 1930s, amidst the whispers of revolution and a crumbling capitalist order, that young Philby found something far more seductive than British aristocracy communism. Cambridge's secret circle at a time when Europe trembled under the shadow of fascism and war, a secret circle was forming among the students of Cambridge. Brilliant, idealistic, and disillusioned with the failures of empire and capitalism, a handful of young men began drifting toward the Soviet cause. Among them, Donald Maclean, eloquent, passionate, and reckless. Guy Burgess, flamboyant, unpredictable, and charming. Anthony Blunt, quiet, cultured, with royal connections. And of course, Kim Philby, poised, persuasive, and seemingly invincible. This group would later be dubbed the Cambridge Five, perhaps the most successful Soviet spy ring in British history. But while the others burned with ideology, Philby's genius lay in deception. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flamboyant. He became the system, and from the inside, he would destroy it. First contact with Soviet intelligence in 1934, Philby was quietly approached by Soviet agents. His recruitment wasn't flashy. No briefcases exchanged in dark alleys. Just a calm offer: use your access. Rise within their ranks. And when the time comes, give us everything. And so he did. His first task: build a cover. He traveled to Vienna, witnessed fascism firsthand, and even briefly married a communist activist named Litzy Friedman, not out of love, but to secure her escape from Nazi Austria. By the time he returned to London, Philby had transformed himself into a respectable journalist, covering the Spanish Civil War from the front lines, reporting under fire while secretly feeding intelligence to the Soviets. This wasn't fiction. This was a man playing three sides at once: the British press, British intelligence, and the Kremlin, and doing it all with the cool of a poker champion. Joining MI6, the greatest infiltration in British history in 1940, as World War II erupted and Britain scrambled to protect its crumbling empire, MI6, the secret intelligence service, was expanding. They needed bright, capable men. Patriots. Insiders. Gentlemen. Philby checked every box. He was brought into Section D, the propaganda and sabotage unit of MI6. From there, he rose swiftly, moving into counterintelligence and later liaising with the CIA. His charm, eloquence, and aristocratic background made him untouchable. What his colleagues didn't know was that every secret MI6 passed to Philby was being copied, decoded, and delivered to Moscow. He became the KGB's most valuable Western asset. His code name? Sonny, though to many, he was simply Kim. Leaking Western secrets, one file at a time over the next 2 decades, Philby leaked the names of hundreds of Western agents, some of whom were tortured or killed. Entire British strategies during the Cold War. CIA operations in Eastern Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Plans to topple communist regimes often before they even began. He even warned the Soviets about Operation Valuable, a British-American plot to overthrow the Albanian communist government in 1949, leading to a total disaster. What's more chilling? Every time an operation failed, every time a Western agent vanished, MI6 blamed the Soviets, but the real threat was sitting right at their table. The puzzle begins to crack in the early 1950s. MI5, Britain's domestic intelligence agency, began noticing patterns. Too many missions were failing, and too many agents were compromised. And then came the moment of reckoning. In 1951, two of Kim's closest friends, Guy Burgess and Donald MacLean, suddenly defected to Moscow. Panic swept through Whitehall. Who had warned them? Who had known they were about to be arrested? One name began to surface. Quietly, then louder, Kim Philby. The master of the bluff, Philby, was summoned for questioning. He laughed off the accusations. He had no choice. If he cracked, it would bring down the entire MI6 command. But Kim was brilliant under pressure. He played the role of loyal servant to the crown. Calm, indignant, and wounded by the unfounded suspicions. Eventually, the government dropped the charges, and Philby was quietly forced to resign. To the public, he remained a respected diplomat. To the press, a misunderstood man caught in Cold War paranoia. But the KGB knew better. Philby had pulled off the impossible. He had been exposed, questioned, and still walked away untouched. End of episode 1. Philby was no longer inside MI6, but he wasn't done. The story of his return to intelligence work, his continued deception, and ultimate escape to Moscow, that all comes next. In episode 2, we'll follow the collapse of his lies, the betrayal of even his closest friends, and the shocking way he vanished, right under the nose of Western intelligence. The greatest traitor in British history had one final trick left. Stay tuned.